Be bold. Be heard. Welcome to Unmute Your Mic with your host, Jessica Bell. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Unmute Your Mic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. My name is Jessica Bell. I am your host from Kansas City, Missouri. And today I'm really excited to talk to Jenny To. She is in Singapore. And I'm so excited because I love getting able to connect with people who are all the way across the world, who I would have never met any other way. And I'm really excited about the topic that we have for you all today. Jenny, thank you so much for agreeing to be on my podcast. I really appreciate it. If you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and we can get this thing started.
Thanks, Jessica, for having me on your show. And yes, I'm in Singapore, and Jessica, you're in Kansas. So it's the the wonders of connecting online that our paths have crossed. Yeah. So I'm currently a life coach, but prior to being a life coach, I practiced law for over 24 years. So you can roughly guess my age. I turned 48 this year. And it wasn't an easy decision for me to transition from being a legal counsel in a bank to start my own life coaching business at actually the peak of the pandemic. So I started my business last April. But I did this because I believe that it's what God has called me into in this next phase of my life, that He wants me to help individuals also discover what their values are and also to pursue their purpose in life. So it's not like a miracle story. It took me a long time because I was first exposed to coaching in perhaps 2015 when I was working in another organization, and I had like a 2-day course on coaching, a crash course on coaching, because I was a manager then. But then I have a full-time job. I have 3 kids, and I was telling God, yeah, this is just a hobby, right? A whim and fancy. You really don't want me to do this. So I pushed it away. It came to December 2018, December, Christmas, time for reflection. And I was telling my husband, I can't get rid of this feeling anymore. It's come to this point where it's so uncomfortable. And it's like the Holy Spirit is telling me, why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you doing what I'm asking you to do? Then I'm like, no. So in December 2018, lots of prayer, lots of discussion with my husband. Then in this January 2019, I started looking for a coach training program. And I'm very old school. I go to university. I need to be in classes. I know when I talk about this now, everyone's like, what's a classroom? We haven't, you mean the Zoom box, the classroom? But no, I needed a classroom. So I was looking for schools here in Singapore, which has the face-to-face classroom style. But because I need to do it part-time, they say, oh, Jenny, you need to come over every evening or every other evening from about 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. So I thought, oh, that's not workable. I finish work. I need to go back to my kids. So then I asked God, okay, I can't do it face to face. What do you want me to do? Then I Googled and I found this Australian school, International Coach Academy. And it wasn't another easy decision because I was like, okay, online, are you sure? This was in 2019, you see. So I spoke to the salesperson at least 3 times. And although she's not a believer, she used these words in the last sales call. She said, Jenny, we've discussed so many aspects. Why don't you take this leap of faith? And that hit me. So why am I not taking this leap of faith? Why am I not trusting God? Why? Because the feeling keeps coming up. I can't push it aside, and I know it's from God because my husband and I, we've prayed so much about this. So we did it. I did it. I trained. I got credentialed. I started my business, and even now, it's a journey for me growing it. But when I look at today, looking back, I have no regrets.
That's beautiful. And I love that you talk so much about feeling like it was what God called you to do. And so I wanted to dive a little bit deeper on that. When you first got that feeling where you're like, I feel like I'm called to do something else, what did it feel like? Because I know we all experience God in a different way. So what was it that made you say, like, I know that this is God and he's telling me to do something else?
Yeah, so it's not easy. At first, I thought, oh, okay, I like doing this. I enjoy coaching, and it gives me joy actually. So actually, I sometimes, I'm really tired, but when I coach someone, after it, I feel so energized. But I felt that, oh, maybe it's just my personal feeling. It's not doesn't have anything to do with God's calling. So how it showed up for me is that I toyed with the idea of not doing it at all, not training as a coach, not so that was that time about the training part, so not training as a coach. And I felt so sad. It's as though it's ridiculous to me at that point. It's as though I've lost something, but I never had it to begin with. But the sadness was so immense that, like, I'm grieving. If I told myself, okay, let's just push aside, continue with your legal job, it's stable, everyone's happy. But I just felt this sense of grief, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? Why is my heart grieving so much? So I had that same experience when I was thinking starting a business at COVID. I wanted to meet the need, you see, of people who really needed life coaching because their whole life is thrown upside down, mine as well, yours as well, during this pandemic. So, but it was also scary because coming out on your own and being alone and journeying as an entrepreneur. So then I toyed with the idea of not starting the business at all and just keeping it as a hobby. If someone comes to me, then I'll coach. Then I just felt that I am not pleasing God. Again, that feeling came up, the sense of grief, the sense of losing something. I'm telling God, I didn't even start anything yet. Why do I feel that I'm grieving? So it's that same signal for me. Your listeners may experience it differently, but it's something very close to your heart you would feel. So for me, it's this sense of grief that doesn't make sense in the human understanding because I never owned it to begin with. So why do I feel this great sense of loss? So even now, if I think that, I don't have this business, it's just very sad for me. Yeah.
Yeah, because like you said, when it's kind of like that pull that you can't really explain in the natural sense. And like you said, you feel like you lost something because when God is calling us to do something, and it is like our life's purpose, and we're kind of turning our back towards it, it is almost if we're shunning a part of us that's going to make us complete in a sense. And so moving forward, you decided, you're going to do the business. You said you and your husband prayed. So then how was the training process? What did it look like to leave when it got to the point for you to actually leave your job in law? What did that look like?
Yeah, it's scary. So, an encouragement to your listeners outside there: being a solopreneur, I mean, starting your business on your own, is very lonely. So, before you start, make sure you have the support of your family members or you have close friends. Be sure to build your support network because you need that. And of course, do as much research as possible in terms of setting up a business or however you want to do your business model. But I tend to overthink as well. So it came to a point that I'm thinking and thinking and not really doing it. So you do have to set yourself a deadline. Like, okay, come this date, I'm doing it. And you plan accordingly. So that's the intellectual level. But to give that confidence to go forward, try and break it down in chunk size. You don't have to have this big perfect plan. I think that's what holds a lot of people back. Like, if I want to be an artist, I need to paint a Rembrandt straight away. No, just do what you can, journey along the way in small steps, and then when you have your successes, celebrate it. Don't say that, oh yeah, it's just really small. So because you need to celebrate it to keep that momentum and to keep going. So even right now, as I build my business, I'm doing small steps. So talking to you, Jessica, is one small step of encouraging people to live out their purpose in their lives.
I love that. And so, I mean, I feel like I know a little bit about what a coach is or does, but can you go in a little bit deeper about why somebody might inquire to have a life coach and kind of what you do?
Sure. Yeah, there is similarities with this helping modalities like counseling, mentoring, and consulting. So, a consultant, your organization has a problem. You hire a consultant. They come up with a plan and they fix it. And once they fix it, they find other problems to fix. So it's more like a fix mentality. Whereas if I'm speaking to you as a mentor, I share my life experiences. So, Jessica, you said I want to decide on my career. Then I'll say, Jessica, this is what I would do if I'm in your shoes. So, there's a lot of focus on the mentor spreading his or her wisdom to the mentee. And as for counseling, you are dealing with some emotional hurts from the past that's really painful, and you want to work through that to be whole again. So there's a lot of helping and going back to the past. So as a coach, we are both considered peers. I'm not better than you, but what I do is I partner alongside you. So Jessica, you are in a good place now, but then you may be stuck on a certain thing, or you just want to get better. So it's a bit like a physical trainer. I'm fit, but I want to build my abs. So I need a trainer to push me along, to encourage me, to tell me as it is. And sometimes, I think I'm doing good, but actually I have my blind spots. So I partner with you. You set your goal. So if you say, I want to run a marathon in 6 months' time. So this is the physical analogy. So as a coach, I help you come up with the training plan that fits you. It's not fitting me, it fits you. I give you encouragement. And then if you have setbacks, we evaluate what happened in the setbacks. It's not to punish you or to belittle you, but to learn from those setbacks and then change it along the way. And ultimately, the coach is very happy when you eventually run your marathon and you tell me as the coach, Jenny, I don't need you anymore. I have done it. That's great. And along the way, you learn the skills. So your goal may be to run a marathon, but I pray that in my coaching sessions with you, you learn the skills to apply what you did to reach your marathon goal in all other areas of your life. So it's to get you to a better place. And actually, what I like to say is soar like an eagle. I don't want to hold you back anymore. So the best part for a coach is actually to say, for the client to say, thank you very much. I really gain a lot for this, but I'm good on my own right now.
Yeah, and that has to be such an amazing feeling to know that you were able, like you said, to walk alongside somebody to see them reach their goals. And I do see why that would really feel like a calling on your life. And so when you're doing these coaching sessions and that kind of thing, what role do you think God or the Holy Spirit plays in these sessions?
So yes, I coach believers and non-believers as well. So we a coach actually in each session will let the client lead it. So we don't give any of our agenda. It's always the client focused agenda. But for Christians, sometimes they say, I don't know if this is what God wants me to do. So then I bring them down to their values. What do they really hold dear? And how do they align their values with this purpose that's put in them? And we explore what would happen if you live your life according to this purpose. So a lot of things come up like uncertainty, and some of my clients are really intellectual. They'll say it doesn't make sense, that then we explore again at the deeper level, at the emotional spiritual level. Where is this coming up for you? So oftentimes in a few sessions they will come up with this awareness that it is something that the spirit is asking them to pursue, to think. It may not be firmed up yet, but there is some truth there. So it takes a lot of work for them to reflect as well. Because me as the coach, I can't say this is what God wants you to do. I mean, I do get prompting and all that, but unless it's very strong, it's not for me to tell the person that this is what God wants you to do. You need to believe and discover it within yourself. So sometimes, similar to me, it's a feeling that you can't quite shake. But sometimes doors open for them, doors that they never expected opened. And they're like, I never even knew this person. I never even knew this job opportunity, but then it's all coming up. So, I encourage them to explore, take that one step forward, and then also reflecting on God, how God has shown up in their life in the past, and the patterns, because God is very unique. He speaks to us uniquely. So my experiences are different from yours, Jessica, but you know who is your father, and how he speaks to you.
I love that. And I also love that you do have the ability to speak to believers and non believers, because I think that's also important too. Because even as a believer, you can stand on your word and what you believe, but still be able to speak life into other people, even if they don't share the same beliefs as you. And I think that's really important. And we need more of that. And we need more believers who can be believers, but know that you still have something to offer somebody, even if they may not be a believer or share the same belief system as you. And so I know we had talked a little bit before recording about, being an introvert and an extrovert. And the reason I think that's important as well is because sometimes we label ourselves and feel like we can't do certain jobs because we're in a certain box or a category. So what is it that you feel you are, and how does that play a role in what you do as a coach? If you're just now tuning in to this week's episode of Unmute Your Mic, we are currently talking to Jenny Toe, and she's from Singapore. And she's talking about following your purpose, listening to God, making those decisions that might be unpopular in the moment, but you know is what God called you to do. So please continue to listen and be inspired by her story.
Yes, I love talking about this because I'm an introvert. And yes, before this recording, I was telling you that my kids, all three of them are introverts. My husband's an introvert. And how I put myself out professionally in social media is that I am an introverted life coach. So when people read about it, they're like, oh, but you're formerly a lawyer. Can a lawyer be an introvert? I thought you guys are loud and abrasive. And so professionally, I can show up. I can be assertive. So that's a misconception about introversion. They think that introverts are shy and quiet and timid. Um, there's many facets of introversion, but the main part is that introversion is we draw our energy from within. We need our downtime. We need to be alone in ourselves to get that energy. So, like you, Jessica, you host podcasts, you talk to a lot of people. But after that, I believe that if you're an introvert, you need that downtime to recharge. And then for myself, when I'm doing this, after this, I really need time alone as well to recharge. For extroverts, they get themselves energized by being with people. So it doesn't mean they need to be in a party all the time, but they get alive if they are with two or three good friends and have engaging conversation that lasts through the night. So I have a friend who says that she really enjoys dinner parties. Back in the day when you can't have dinner parties, now virtual dinner parties, she still holds that. But they talk through the night with conversations, and I'm thinking, okay, for me it's bedtime. I need to go and 3 hours maybe, but after that, you need to wind down. So being an entrepreneur and an introvert and really having this need to reach out to people because I believe in the value that I'm giving to people. So that's what's driving me. It may be uncomfortable, it may be outside my comfort zone, but then I go back to my purpose, and I think that if I hold back, in my shell and I don't do anything, what about that one person I could reach? Isn't it a shame that I held back because I'm afraid of showing up, and I end up not helping that one person who really needed that help from me, because God intends me to help the people he put in my life. So it doesn't mean that I can help the whole entire world. That's not my goal. But if I can help one person at a time, so I tell myself that. So sometimes I'm uncomfortable, like doing this podcast recording with you. But I'm thinking, Jessica's listeners, who knows? There's one person out there who probably is going to start a business, who's probably going to pursue a different career, who's probably going to make an important life decision. But she's thinking, do I have what it takes? What will my family say? Am I going to, be able to do this? But I hope that he or she will be encouraged by this. If you really believe that's your purpose, it doesn't matter if you are your character traits, if you're an introvert or extrovert. Dig deep into your purpose and see and ask yourself, if you don't do this, what's the outcome to yourself and to the people you will help? So that's how I keep myself going forward.
And I love that. I think it's really important. Like you said, you never know who's that one person that you're called to speak to or called to reach, and you're too if you're too afraid to do it. You may there may have been a missed opportunity there, and so I love that you're able to put kind of like your own feeling of being uncomfortable aside to allow God to work through you. And so, do you notice that in any other areas of your personal life, just outside of coaching? Are there any other areas where you feel like, man, this is really uncomfortable, but I'm going to allow God to lead me in this?
Um, Let me think. Okay, church work, when we do community outreach. So sometimes I do get emotional when I help displaced people in the community, and I feel that the need is too great for me to meet. So again, I step back and ask myself, maybe God just wants me to speak to this particular family. I'm not going to help the whole entire neighborhood, but then just this family, spend a bit more time with them. And given that, because there are different backgrounds for me, I use my coaching skills to find that commonality, to build that trust and rapport. So in community outreach work, we deal with a lot of different people, and it's always very good to suspend your own judgment. We all have bias, unconscious bias. None of us can say that, oh, I'm totally without bias. You have all this. But the main thing is not to beat yourself out about it when it shows up, but to be aware and to practice empathy. Because at the end of the day, we are all God's creation. At the end of the day, we all come from our loving Father. Yeah, whether of the same faith or not, ultimately, that's my belief. We all come from the same Father. So, doing things like that, being in uncomfortable situations, and then, previously on the work front, if I'm doing something different, I also break it down into small, manageable chunk size and work through small steps and celebrate the successes. Because I think for us, we always have this big vision plan. It just seems so overwhelming. So a tip is break it down, work it backwards, break it down to small things. And when you achieve that small goal, celebrate it. I think, particularly as women, we sometimes don't celebrate it. We'll shrug it off like, okay, that was just luck. Oh, I had so and so helping me. Doesn't matter, because, even if you had so many people helping you, the fact that you did A, which you have set out to do A, just celebrate that step. So I'm learning that myself as well. I tend to be very hard on myself. So now I'm thinking, okay, this small success, celebrate it. And then when you celebrate it, there is this positive energy that you give out as well. And it encourages people to be grateful and celebrate and appreciate the successes, the blessings of daily living.
And celebrating ourselves is so important. Like you said, we can be really hard on ourselves, and it's almost like we're on to the next goal before we ever even take the time to say, wait, I actually just completed something. But I think sometimes too, when you're an entrepreneur or you're working really hard, you have a big goal in mind. And so because of that, it's like I want to have, 1 million subscribers to my podcast, but you're not celebrating the fact that you have 1,000, 1,500, all of these things that are really important. And so that kind of leads me to a question I wanted to ask, because I know that you had said that you are a wife and a mother as well. And so how do you balance those other very important duties, but also your self-care and making sure that you are able to show up and be the best version of yourself? How do you balance being a coach and also being a wife and a mother?
Yeah, interesting that you should raise that, because I'm also a work in progress. We are all work in progress. We're not there. So I like what you said. We tend to be hard on yourself. So I see coming up in women a lot. Men, I'm sure they have their drive, their motivation, and they're more solution focused. So they would say that as long as I solve this, I will feel good about it. But women, we tend to like think about it too much, feel about it too much. And for me, I do have this sense of responsibility that I need to take care of everyone. So, in the professional front, take care of all my clients. At the home front, take care of my husband and my kids. So there's a lot of responsibility in taking care. So actually, my self-care realization is that, hey, you don't have to take full responsibility of everyone. Yeah, so that's something I'm learning. The only full responsibility you need to take care of is yourself, and that includes, your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. You need to take care of yourself first. So I like this analogy. I'm sure you've heard it many times. In an aeroplane, when the oxygen mask is dropped, do you put it on your kids or anyone else first? That's the tendency, right? But you will pass out. So you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help your kids. So I like that analogy, and I share that with my clients when they need it as well. So for me, how do I balance all it? Again, what I said in the beginning, ensure that the closest people in your life are supportive. So it's hard. I know there will be people out there whose closest family members are not supportive of their career change or of going into the business. If your family is not supportive, try and find someone who can journey with you, whether it's a mentor or a close friend, just or someone. You need at least one person who supports you. So I'm very thankful. My husband, at first he was skeptical about, Jenny, why do you want to leave your legal career? So we had a lot of difficult conversations. We talked through it, we prayed to it. So now he's my top supporter in everything that I do relating the business. And then as for my kids, they are old enough for me to have a discussion with them about what I love doing. So it's also getting their understanding that at times, mom needs to be on a call, so I can't spend time with you. So my youngest is 9. So at times she's like, Mommy, you love coaching more than me. So I need to tell her, no, but I'm helping someone right now. And, either we spend time before my call or we spend time after. So when you think about how do you get that balance, it's different in everyone's lives. And also consider the phase of life that you're in. I'm also telling this to myself. You cannot copy someone's life and say, Mrs. A's life is perfect. You look at her house, it's perfect. So it's what her life is like. But if you look at your life, take time to think, what would be an ideal day for you? Just an ideal day. Imagine what that ideal day. Then you'll get some inclination from there of what balance is for you. So there is no easy answer to this, but the takeaways I want your listeners to know is that make sure you take care of yourself. Do something that you enjoy. So for me, I like my morning cup of coffee. In the quiet of the morning, I really love that. And then that sets the mood for the day. I mean, if I rush through my morning coffee and I feel that, something's not quite right. So simple things like that. You don't have to do big things. And for people, some of them, they love to jog. So if they don't get that 20 minutes run, something's not quite right. So cherish yourself first. And then for your purpose, make sure you have a group of supporters. It doesn't have to be a large number. If you can get your family on board or someone close to you to support you. And then think about your big goal and how do you break it down into small goals. Yeah. And overall, just remember to be kind to yourself. Like you said, we tend to be too hard. The fact that we are all still thriving in this time, that is worthy of celebration.
Yeah, we have a lot to celebrate. And I really like the fact that you brought up sometimes the self care can be something really small. So some people think like in order to have self care, you got to take like a 2 week vacation and be sitting on the beach. And though that might be nice, like sometimes it's just those little things that we can do throughout the day or even throughout the week, maybe where it's like you said, it's just that time to drink your coffee, or maybe it's the 20 minutes of meditation at the end of the day, or just something so that we're not always operating on E. So I think that's really important. And I've had such a great time talking to you today. You've given us some great information. So if we could just end this with you encouraging my listeners today, if you could just take a minute or two to talk about some just daily encouragement. So maybe you're speaking to the person who feels like they're called to do something else, and maybe they feel like it's crazy because they're a doctor or a lawyer and they're feeling like they're called to do something that maybe is not the common thing that somebody would do. If you could just encourage them to walk in their purpose, I think that would be really beneficial.
I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it too much as well. Like, I don't want it to be a Hollywood movie that, oh, yes, I will change my career just like that. So, no, my first, I wouldn't say advice, but sharing from personal experience, take that time to slow down, reflect. If you're not a believer, um, think about it. If you need to talk to someone about it, talk to someone who's done it. Yeah, let's not reinvent the wheel. I mean, for me, there's so many life coaches out there. So before I actually did anything, I reached out to a lot of coaches and get their different perspective. But at the end of the day, after you've done your research, you need to know who you are as a person. So you cannot copy anyone else. You can get advice and all that. But at the end of the day, you need to still come back to yourself and decide that, is this really resonating with who I am as a person? So that's what everyone can do. But an added thing for believers is spend time being close to God. So if you feel that I am so overwhelmed, I'm so stressed, I don't see why this is all making sense, that's a sign for you to come to God. And not to come to God for God, tell me if it's A or B, but come to God and just really enjoy his presence, loving him as your father, and spending time worshiping and all that. Because I realized for myself, when I don't put all my God, can I have this, can I have that to him, and then just come and enjoy the presence, the light bulb moment actually comes up. It's amazing, because you are so connected with him, and then the answer comes up. Yeah, so I would say, practically, yes, you have this burning desire to do something, to make this big shift in your life. You do need to do research. You do need to talk to people who have done it, and get advice. And you do need to plan, because I don't want anyone to just say, yeah, I've watched this movie and then he did that and then he made $1 million. It's not like that in real life. So be realistic. Know what you're getting yourself into, and of course, pray about it. And important again, get your supporters, because although I am a solopreneur and some of you might be going into this alone, it does feel lonely, but your journey, you can journey with the people in your life.
Thank you so much again for being on my podcast. Thank you for all the amazing tips that you shared. For everybody listening today, I'm going to include all of Jenny's information down below. So please stay connected with her. Follow her on her platforms. Jenny, thank you again for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jessica. It's been really fun. Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to thank everybody for listening to another episode of Unmute Your Mic. As always, you can stay connected with us at unmuteyourmic.org. You can also subscribe on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. I want to thank you all for listening to another amazing story. And don't forget to be bold, be brave, and continue to unmute your mic. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Unmute Your Mic. Be sure to tune in next time when Jessica takes her mic off mute as she continues her journey to find stories that inspire and uplift our communities.